Floyd Abrams is the doyen of First Amendment law in America, and he's joining me now from New York. Floyd Abrams, it's great to have you on this day to take us through this. So from your perspective, essentially defending the media, is this a case where justice has been done, do you think?
I think justice has been done in the broadest monetary sense that we've ever seen, really, in any libel case in American history. Whether justice has been done in the sense that the lesson that Fox News and perhaps others will learn is to be not only more careful, but simply not to engage in the sort of false editorializing and putting people on who lie. I can't say I'm that optimistic that will change much, but I think it's at least a waving red flag.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of the fact that, and how did Fox get away with, or is this de rigueur for settlements, not having to apologize on air for its defamation? And also, as you noted in its statement, it said that I believe it said it acknowledges that the judge found certain statements about Dominion to be false. Well, the judge said every single statement that Fox News reported about Dominion and the election was false.
That's what the judge said. That is what is obviously true. The judge, in a written opinion, made that very clear. In fact, he used capital letters. It is crystal clear, he said, that all the statements about Dominion were false. And so they were.
It seems like a massive game of chicken was being played. I mean, right down to the last second, the jury had been seated, the opening arguments were due to start. There'd been this delay the day before. The procedure. What do you think was happening behind the scenes?
Talking or talking about talking. Both sides had an interest in disposing of the case. Fox's interest is obvious because it would have been, at least in the broad public opinion, ruinous in terms of how people, not the Fox viewers, but how more people viewed Fox as a propaganda outfit. So there was a lot of reason for them to settle. The other reason was, I think they probably would have lost, even though we have a legal system which is very sort of loaded purposely in favor of free speech, which makes it very hard to win a libel case like this. But this one was a very strong case. And then looking back on it, certainly, it's not surprising that Fox would make every effort to somehow put this behind it.
And why do you think then Dominion settled? Why?
Well, Dominion is a business. Dominion's business is not litigation, but to make itself whole again. No one's ever won or obtained an amount like this. If there's anything that can be gained by a libel case in the sense that the public, to the extent the public followed this, the public would know that Fox had erred, or really worse than erred, purposely put false information on the air. Dominion has done that. Whether the Fox viewers will view Fox any less cordially and in terms of inviting it into their home, I rather doubt it.
Let me ask you about some of the tweets from Andrew Neil, who used to be an insider. He ran Murdoch's Sunday Times here in the UK. He ran Sky News at one point, and I spoke to him yesterday right as we thought this trial was going ahead. After the settlement, he tweeted that it doesn't end there for Rupert Murdoch. Another voting machine company, Smartmatic, is suing for $2.7 billion, with perhaps even a stronger case. Plus, his shareholders could sue him, or Fox, the parent company, for diminishing their assets one already has. And he goes on to say but it's already cost far, far more than the UK hacking scandal, with much more financial exposure still to come. Will strengthen that part of Murdoch family which wants to dump Fox News. What do you make of that? Do you think that... yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's quite a prescient observation. It's all the things on that list of statements I think are accurate. Yes, there certainly will be litigation by a shareholder of Fox. Yes, certainly in terms of Fox's reputation and whether people at Fox on the financial side will really want to continue with Fox News, that's a harder one. Certainly Fox News is by far the best known Fox product. Whether the people who run Fox will have found this all so distasteful that they'll even think about divesting itself from Fox News is a question I don't think anybody has any idea about.
Let's ask the bigger question, and Floyd Abrams, you've been in the middle of this for decades. You know, a free and independent press in a democratic country is a major and important pillar of a functioning democracy. Do you think this trial has made that more likely and less, or do we think that Fox and the, attendant, even further right-wing conspiracy theorists and all the others will continue to get up to mischief with their so-called reporting or commentating on the upcoming elections?
Yeah. Look, my judgment, my guess is that Fox will not change much. My guess would be that, yes, they'll send instructions down. Don't do this sort of thing again. We don't need this trouble and this enormous amount of money being paid out. But in terms of whether Fox will change what I'll call its editorial policy, we'll move it all towards the center, or even to caring more about avoiding the correct charge of propaganda. One can't tell. My guess is, I'm afraid, no.
You say the correct charge of propaganda. That's interesting. Dominion lawyer Justin Nelson, after the settlement, said this to CNN. Take a listen.
I do hope that this really does send a message that it is so important to tell the truth, and that if you don't tell the truth, lies have consequences. And I think this is what it established, and that is why there is accountability today. There's accountability to Dominion, and there's accountability to democracy.
So, Floyd Abrams, we discussed a little, but the other side of that question is, how does this, in the bigger picture, potentially change the decades-old New York Times versus Sullivan of 1964, which established a very, very high bar for libel and defamation? It's almost impossible for media companies to lose in these cases. Do you think in the future, either at the Supreme Court or elsewhere, that law, that precedent, will be changed?
Well, first, I don't think it'll be changed because of the result, the settlement in this case. As for whether it will be changed because we've had a change of membership on our Supreme Court, that is more possible now than it had been in the past. 2 members of the court have already, in writing, urged that it be changed, and there's reason to think that there are more that would be. If I had to guess, I would say it will not change in the foreseeable future. I don't think that 5 of our 9 Supreme Court justices are going to be prepared to say that this precedent from 1964, which certainly in general has served us well as a freedom-protecting body of law, I don't think that there are going to be 5 votes, but I may be, as they say, whistling Dixie.
So finally, let me ask you, from your decades and decades of experience in this, what feeling do you have right now? You started many, many years ago defending the press, as well as many other, corporate cases you've taken and all the rest of it. But what's your feeling now, looking back at history and to the future?
It was very important, in my view, for Fox in one way or the other to lose this case. For one thing, New York Times versus Sullivan is not an impenetrable barrier to plaintiffs with very good cases winning. I think, as I'll bet Fox thought, that there was a very good chance Fox would lose this case had it gone to the jury. I think it's more likely than not that that would have happened. In terms of the impact really on democracy, I think we're better off for having had this case. I think it does send a message. I think it is a warning, at least, to the sort of entities that would be prepared to engage in the worst excesses of the worst of journalism. To be careful that it is not a get-out-of-jail-free card that the Supreme Court has given. It's just very, very hard to win a libel case here brought by a public figure, and it should be.